Today, the NCPO, or the National Council for Peace and Order, held its 8th meeting to consider various issues presented to the NCPO by the concerned agencies, and also have deliberated on this issue and given approval and decision accordingly. The first one is to do with the signing of the Memorandum of Understanding on bilateral cooperation between the Department of Intellectual Property and the European Patent Office. The Economic Cluster of NCPO approved the Ministry of Commerce to propose issues to the head of the NCPO to consider as follows. 1. To approve the signing of the Memorandum of Understanding, or MOU, on bilateral cooperation between the Department of Intellectual Property and the European Patent Office. 2. To assign the Director of the Department of Intellectual Property to sign the MOU. In addition, should there be any insignificant amendment before the signing, the Director of Department of Intellectual Property is authorized to consider such amendment. The important background to this issue is that the Ministry of Commerce and the European Patent Office had arranged the two bilateral work plans during 2005 and 2010, covering the development of human resource on intellectual property and supporting Thailand to be a member of Patent Cooperation Treaty, or PCT. The signing of the mentioned MOU will be held during the General Assembly of the World Intellectual Property Organization, or WIPO, in September 2014 in Geneva, Switzerland. The next issue is to do with the draft agreement on the establishment of ASEAN Plus 3 Macroeconomic Research Office, or AMRO. The Economic Cluster of NCPO approved the Ministry of Finance to propose to the head of NCPO as follows. To approve the draft agreement on the establishment of ASEAN Plus 3 Macroeconomic Research Office, to approve the signing on the mentioned draft agreement, and to assign the Minister of Finance or representative to sign the mentioned agreement. In addition, should there be any insignificant context within the agreement needed to be amended, the signatory or signer can make a consideration without reporting to the head of NCPO for reconsideration. To assign the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to arrange the full powers letter to the Ministry of Finance or representative to sign the agreement. The background to this issue is that the 13th ASEAN Plus 3 Finance Ministers meeting on the 2nd of May 2000 at Uzbekistan, consisting of 10 ASEAN member countries, plus the People's Republic of China, Japan, and the Republic of Korea, had approved the establishment of ASEAN Plus 3 Macroeconomic Research Office to monitor, evaluate, and report the economic and financial situation of each member country and ASEAN Plus 3 countries, and also to evaluate risk which may affect the economic and financial stability of the region, as well as recommend the relevant policy to support the Chiang Mai Initiative Multilateralization, or CMIM, to be effectively implemented. So NCPO has given its approval to this draft agreement on the establishment of ASEAN Plus 3 Macroeconomic Research Office, or AMRO. The NCPO, during its 8th meeting on the 29th of July 2014, gave approval to the draft statement of the chairman of the 7th meeting of foreign ministers of Mekong River Basin and Japan, the draft statement of the 7th meeting of ministers on Lower Mekong River Basin initiatives, and the draft statement of the 4th meeting of ministers of friendly countries of Lower Mekong River Basin. The NCPO also designated Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, who is acting Foreign Minister, to acknowledge the aforementioned documents, and should there be any adjustment, such as documents that is not of important substance, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs can proceed with the alteration without having to submit the issue to the NCPO for consideration. The NCPO, during the 8th meeting on the 29th of July 2014, gave approval to the draft statement of the chairman of the 7th meeting of foreign ministers of Mekong River Basin and Japan, the draft statement of the 7th meeting of ministers on Lower Mekong River Basin initiatives, and the draft statement of the 4th meeting of ministers of friendly countries of Lower Mekong River Basin. The NCPO also designated Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, who is acting Foreign Minister, to acknowledge the aforementioned documents, and should there be any adjustment of such documents that is not of important substance, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs can proceed with the alteration without having to submit the issue to the NCPO for consideration. The Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs will give the acknowledgement to those statements during the 47th meeting of ASEAN Foreign Ministers to be held in Naypyidaw, Myanmar between the 7th and the 10th of August 2014. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs informed the NCPO that the 7th meeting of Foreign Ministers of Mekong River Basin and Japan will focus on the confirmation of the intention to promote linkage and reduce development gaps in ASEAN, as well as increasing capacity of the countries of Mekong River Basin in maintaining and managing the infrastructure. The 7th meeting of Ministers on Lower Mekong River Basin initiatives will also be attended by the United States of America and will stress on the importance of issues such as linkages, food, water, energy security, development of women's role, and the implementation of various main projects. As for the 4th meeting of Ministers of friendly countries of Lower Mekong River Basin, this will concentrate on the importance of cooperation with donor countries, the Office of the ASEAN Secretary General, the Mekong River Commission, and other regional organizations. All 3 statements are documents to announce the political intention and policy commitment without signing in the draft documents and not causing any binding commitment under international laws. Therefore, the 3 draft documents are not conventions under the enforcement of international laws, but as they are related to international relations, they had to be submitted to the Cabinet for consideration, and in this case, NCPO for consideration. The next issue is regarding the draft statement of the joint chairpersons of the 4th meeting of foreign ministers of the Mekong River Basin and the Republic of Korea. NCPO on the 29th of July 2014 has approved the draft statement of the joint chairpersons of the 4th meeting of foreign ministers of the Mekong River Basin and the Republic of Korea, assigned the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, who is also acting Foreign Minister, to jointly give acknowledgement to the said statement, and should there be any necessity to amend wordings of the statement that are not of important substance and are not against Thailand's benefit, the Ministry can proceed with such alteration without having to resubmit the issue to the NCPO for consideration again. The framework of Mekong Republic of Korea cooperation comprises 6 member countries, namely Cambodia, Laos, PDR, Myanmar, Thailand, Vietnam, and the Republic of Korea. It was established in 2010 with the objectives to promote economic and development cooperation with countries in the Mekong River Basin sub-region in 6 areas. These are infrastructure, IT, economic growth that is friendly to the environment, water resource development, agricultural and rural area development, and human resource development. This framework holds its meeting at the levels of ministers and senior officials every year, with the acknowledgement of the joint statement during the ministerial level meeting to confirm the intention to cooperate in various projects without signature. The draft statement of the joint chairpersons of the 4th meeting of the foreign ministers of the Mekong River Basin and the Republic of Korea is the confirmation of the intention to continue the participation under the framework of Mekong Republic of Korea cooperation and the acknowledgement of the plan of operation between 2014 and 2017. This is to achieve the vision of the Mekong Republic of Korea cooperation in 3 areas, as stated in the Han River Declaration, namely the linkage among ASEAN member countries, the sustainable development, and the people-centered development, as well as attaching great importance to the private sector, the support for the Mekong Institute for the Cooperation in Mekong River Basin Economic Development. The draft statement is also to acknowledge the document concerning methods of operation of the Mekong and the Republic of Korea cooperation projects. Such draft statement is a declaration of political objectives using words that do not cause any commitment under the international laws and no signature to be provided in it. Therefore, it is not a convention under the enforcement of international laws. The fourth meeting of Mekong River Basin and the Republic of Korea foreign ministers is being held between the 28th and the 29th of July 2014 in Seoul, the Republic of Korea, with the acknowledgement of the statement of the joint chairpersons during the meeting. On the 29th of July 2014, NCPO deliberated on the issue of the extension of the waiver of the migrant workers' stay in the kingdom in order to complete nationality verification. The Economy Working Cluster of NCPO gave approval to the Ministry of Labour to propose to the 8th NCPO meeting for consideration regarding an extension of the duration of the waiver of the migrant workers' stay in the kingdom. These are workers from Myanmar, Laos and Cambodia that have been given permission to work in the country according to the Article 13(2) of the Royal Act of the Work of Migrant Workers BE 2551 and the Cabinet's decision of the 6th of August 2013, whose work permits will expire on the 11th of August 2014. The Committee on the Policy to Manage Problems of Migrant Workers and Human Trafficking had an opinion that the duration should not be extended and the migrant workers staying in the kingdom according to the Cabinet's decision of the 6th of August 2013, whose work permits will expire on the 11th of August 2014, should report to the one-stop service centers and migrant worker registration centers in the provinces that are the locations of the businesses concerned. Personal records, health checkups and issuance of approvals to stay in the kingdom can then be made, and temporary work permits can also be given. The workers can therefore enter into the process of adjustment of their status to become legal workers. The NCPO has agreed to the opinion of the committee that the duration is not to be extended and the workers should report to the recently established one-stop service center, with the deadline for reporting being the end of October 2014. Temporary work permits cards will be issued, and those without passport will then have until the end of March 2015 to apply with their countries of origin for their passport issuance and for the presentation of the passport to the Thai authority for confirmation. The last issue is also regarding the migrant workers. During the 8th meeting of NCPO on the 29th of July 2014, the NCPO gave an approval to a draft ministerial regulation to abolish previous ministerial regulation, which was issued in accordance with Articles 15 and 16 of the Royal Act of the Work of Migrant Workers BE 2551. This is to discontinue the deduction of employees' wages to contribute towards the fund of the repatriation of foreign individuals. And also the NCPO given approval to a draft ministerial regulation to set certain fees and cancel certain work registration fees of migrant workers. This regulation aims to solve the problems of the shortage of laborers and to persuade foreign citizens who are outside the employment system to enter the legal employment system. The new fees that will apply to laborers and household workers with the same rates being used throughout the kingdom include 225 baht for permits issuance or extension of 3 months duration, 450 baht for permits issuance or extension of more than 3 months duration but less than 6 months, and 900 baht for permits issuance or extension of more than 6 months but less than 1 year. The new fees will be applied to workers of other categories of occupations with the same rates being used throughout the country, for example, 750 baht for permits issuance or extension of less than 3 months, 1,500 baht for permit issuance or extension of more than 3 months but less than 6 months, and 3,000 baht for permit issuance or extension of more than 6 months but less than 1 year. Migrant workers who use their physical strength in construction businesses or do their work in households will be exempted from paying fees for permission to change or increase areas of residence or places of work. These ministerial regulations will be enforced from the 25th of June 2014. These two ministerial regulations serve to solve problems of migrant workers by cancelling the deduction of employees' wages to contribute a sum towards the fund for repatriation of migrant workers. This will help reduce the burden that had previously affected the cost of living of employees and made them avoid entering into the work permit issuance system. One of the two bills will also determine the work registration fees for migrant workers in employment that principally requires the use of physical strength or those that work within households by utilizing the same rates throughout the kingdom. The measures will sort out the problems of the shortage of laborers and persuade foreigners living outside the employment system to step into the legal employment system. And this will be in accordance with the measures to solve problems of migrant workers proposed by the Committee on Policy to manage problems relating to migrant workers and human trafficking. Such ministerial regulations will reduce impacts on various aspects such as the society and the security, including problems of crimes and narcotic drugs, human trafficking, child labor, education, environment, and illegal human entry into the country. The regulations will also be beneficial in terms of public health, although legally registered migrant workers will receive health checkups and disease screening by provincial health officers and be given health insurance cards. The number of such individuals is small as compared to the number of illegal, unregistered migrant workers that may affect public health of our country to a significant degree. This is because the illegal, unregistered foreign workers have difficulties in gaining access to health services and to receive news and information. Hence, the disease control among this group of workers is difficult and may affect the budget designated to the public health that is needed to sort out these problems.